So the reason we're hosting this is because the cost of living crisis has increased in London and all across the country, the needs that people are facing. So both financial need and social need. And we see that in the churches that we work with. The need is exponentially more than it was before the pandemic. So that's the reason today to host something to talk about a way to both give as a church, but also to access help and money. So we're really lucky to have Acts 435 come today. So I wanted to start by introducing our speakers. Katie Greene is here. Hello, Katie, thanks for coming. And she's the communications director at Acts 435 and has a lot to tell us today and show us about their model, which has been used quite widely across the country. And Alison Harvey is here too, waving from a food bank in Lewisham. So she'll tell us how they use Acts 435. So should I turn it over to you, Katie?
Absolutely, yeah, that's great.
Maybe you could introduce yourself and I'll share screen once you're ready. You just tell me.
I will let you know. Thank you. Good afternoon. So my name's Katie, as Jill has said, and I'm the communications director at Acts 435. So my role is to communicate quite simply with donors and churches who are either potentially wanting to partner with us or want to donate through our unique way of giving. So I'm just going to give you, firstly, a brief introduction to Acts 435, where we came from, and then how we work, and also how churches can get involved with what we do. So Acts 435 is based on the book Acts in the Bible, chapter 4, verse 35, where we see the early church giving to each as they had need. Acts 435 works through a network of churches and local charities to provide for the needs of individuals by connecting them with those that want to help. And we do that through our website to provide fast financial help for people in UK poverty and desperate or crisis situations. So our website enables donors to give to a person's specific need, knowing that they're making a big difference to that individual or to that family. The needs can vary from white goods and furniture to clothing for a job interview or school uniform, travel to hospital appointments. The list is endless, really, of things that people can post requests for help for. So we at Acts 435 really believe that a small gift can have a really big impact, make a really big difference to those facing poverty or crisis. So we want to be a resource to churches to enable this to happen. We purely want to resource churches and local charities with this way of providing practical help for individuals with specific items in a really simple way. And in a few moments, I'll show you how simple it is. So Acts 435 was officially launched in July 2010. By our patron, who is the Right Reverend Dr. John Sentamu, who's the former Archbishop of York. In the last 12 years, we've helped over 45,000 people with over £4.9 million, and we're really close to 5 million, which is really exciting for us. And that 4.9 million has directly gone to help with those specific needs. We've currently got over 600 participating churches and local charities all around the UK, and around 700 local advocates. So each church or charity might have more than one advocate, and I'll explain a little bit about that advocate role later on. So just to give you a bit of an idea and a flavour, Jill, if you wouldn't mind sharing, I've just put together a few slides which will just show you our website, and I just want to point out a few things and talk you through it. You might have already seen our website. This is our newer website. It's been a journey over the last year, as we launched last June, which is nearly coming up for a year ago. But so if you go into the next slide, Jill. So our website is hopefully really easy and simple to use, but this is what our donors see when they come onto our website, or anyone interested in what we do. As you can see, these shots were taken a few days ago, so the stats on them obviously aren't live, but on the actual website they appear live. So the 272 is the amount of urgent requests that are currently on the website at that moment in time. If you go to the next slide, Jill. Thank you. So this is our Give to a Need page, which is the page that donors would navigate towards. And on there, you can see the amount of days that somebody's been waiting for their need to be met, from the need being posted onto our website and to the amount being raised in full for that item. Depending, it really fluctuates on how many days that takes. 13 is actually quite a high number for us. And we often see it much lower than that. The average is 9 to 10 days, and over like the Christmas period, it can be just 3 days for those needs to be met, which is just fantastic. But obviously in line with the cost of living as well, some of our donors are feeling the pinch too. So sometimes that period of time gets longer, but we really still believe that 13 days, for example, is fast financial help for those who really need it, which is fantastic. So on this page, if you go to the next slide, please, Jill, you can scroll down there. So donors can either view all of the requests in sort of one long list, if you like. They can scroll down, read the stories of people who have a need, and choose out of those which to give towards. So for example, there's one there for emergency accommodation, and you'll see underneath that they explain the story of who the person is anonymously, but why the item is needed, and sort of just a bit about their story basically. But on the left hand side of the screen, people can go on and filter either by category. So they might, their heart might be really drawn towards refugees and asylum seekers, or children, and requests for help with items for children, and they can filter down those categories. They can also filter by region. So absolutely loads of our donors love to give to where they live, or maybe another specific area that pulls at their heartstrings. So that's really helpful there. Just go to the next screen, please, Jill. Thank you. So this was just to give you a bit of an idea, really, of some more requests that are on the website. A good point to mention is that the maximum amount for a request is £200. And the £200 is for large items, really. But requests can vary. It all depends on what it is, and we like to have a lot of variety on our website, which is great because with over 600 partners, every church or charity working in different communities with different demographics, actually we see a lot of variety on our website as it is. So here's there's some requests for children's school shoes and clothes, a washing machine. If you go to the next slide, Jill, I think we might have a few more. Yeah. So somebody had pawned their guitar and amplifier and wanted to get them back from the pawn shop. So that's the kind of, you know, sometimes just in that crisis that I read that request, and it goes on to explain how it would really benefit their well-being and mental health. So, you know, things like that. There's a wide variety of requests on our website. I think, is there one more, Jill? I think. Possibly, yes, there we go. Again, a cooker and single beds. So I think, yeah, there's just a wide variety of requests really on our website, and it just means that donors going on can then choose where they want to financially give to sort of different people, different backgrounds, different needs, and that's entirely up to them. Thank you, Jill. You can stop sharing now. There we go. Fab. Thank you. I'll come on to that one next. That's great. So donors going onto our website to give could be anyone in the country, and sometimes even the world. We've got donors from overseas who just love our unique model, and they're just people who want to give directly to meet a need, with no administration costs or overhead costs taken away. So if you went onto our website and you gave £80 to Fred's cooker in Liverpool, the full £80 would go towards his cooker. All our administration costs and salaries and other overheads are all covered by gift aid that we can claim back on eligible donations, which is just fantastic and quite a unique way of sustaining what we do. So donors, as I said, can just choose which requests strike a chord with them and give accordingly. And our website, essentially boiled down, is like crowdfunding, but for individuals, with all the money going towards their specific need. So our vision as a charity is to see the needs of those in poverty and crisis help when they need it most. And to do that, we want to be, and we need to be, a resource to churches and charities all over the UK who are serving the need in their local community, or who want to serve the community further. So as a church, you might already have existing ministries happening, such as a food bank, debt centre, counselling, lots of things going on already that you can immediately see where Acts 435 would be helpful. Or maybe you don't have things running yet and you want to get started in reaching out into your community. Actually, Acts 435 is a great way to do that. Reaching out, you could reach out to your local school, housing association, or other areas, sectors of your community that you could possibly see the need, and use us in that way. So how does it work in practice? So essentially, the advocate, I talked about the advocate earlier. So the advocate is a representative of Acts 435 within that church or local charity. And they will hear of the need. They'll either do that sort of face-to-face with the applicant, maybe the applicant, and Alison will talk about this later on, but they might come into the food bank and say, my cooker doesn't work, or I've got a job interview next week and I need something smart to be able to wear to this interview. So once they hear of that need, they need to seek the approval of that applicant to be able to post the request on their behalf. They can then go on and use our online partner dashboard to post the request, and the request then goes through, and I will show you in a little while, it goes through to our team for checking before it goes live on the website. And it's a simple form and really straightforward to do. Once the request is there on our website, donors are then able to go on and anonymously donate any amount towards that request, from £5 to the whole amount, just like crowdfunding. So requests, as I said earlier, can be for up to any amount up to £200. And once the request is met, the money is then transferred to the church to help the applicant to purchase the item. And depending on the item or the time capacity of the advocate, it might be that you either source it for them and order it online, or you might want to go on a shopping trip and help them choose the item that they so desperately need. But that is completely and entirely up to you as to how you facilitate that. So if you think Acts 435 could be a resource for your church, how do you get involved? Well, once a church is interested in partnering with us to run this resource, you would need to identify and nominate the advocate, so that representative, and it could be somebody who is meeting face-to-face with applicants, but it could also be somebody who does facilitates your administration in your office, who has the time to do the small admin that is needed for that. But once you've nominated that person, the church leadership alongside the advocate would need to sign an advocate commitment form, and then the advocate gets provided with the link to our online handbook and login details to their partner dashboard, and they can get started. So the advocate could be somebody already involved. It could be a church administrator. So for people watching this back or listening, you know, it could be you, but you could already think maybe possibly of somebody else who might suit that role for the small amount of admin that it takes to get started with that. So finally, before I show you our partner dashboard and how posting a request works, we're often asked, what's the catch? And there really isn't one. Acts 435 is a completely free resource that genuinely exists to serve churches and charities who are helping those in need or are hoping to reach out to them. So we connect those that want to help and donate with those that have an immediate need. And we need more churches and local charities to partner with us to be able to do that. So many churches, especially those who are really active in their community, often receive over £10,000 a year through Acts 435 donations, and it's just money that those churches couldn't raise themselves to help their community, and thankfully we can do that for them, which is just fantastic. And we're aware of a lot of smaller churches, obviously not in London, but we have a lot of, I'm sure you've got small churches too, but rural churches who have small congregations who are able to utilise Acts 435 as sort of their outreach budget almost, which is just brilliant. So I'm just going to practically show you how posting a request works before I hand over to Alison, who's going to tell you her experiences of being an advocate in the London area. So Jill, could I have just the next bit of slides, please? Thank you. So I've mocked up a few slides here just to give you a sort of a flavour really of how posting a request works. So the next slide, please, Jill, and just we'll give you a brief showing of what our partner dashboard looks like. With our new website last year, we tried to simplify it and make it as easy as possible for our advocates to see their requests, see any action that needs taking, and also to create a request. So while the red bits look daunting, they're not. They're just meaning that there's some outstanding admin for that request. I will come on to what those might be in a moment. But for now, we're just going to show you a bit further down the screen. If you go to the next slide, please, Jill. So those ones are current requests, but on the next slide, so underneath the current requests, it lists a request history. So that's all the requests that this advocate has ever posted. Obviously, I've changed names and things on this screen, but it just shows a list of the requests that have previously been posted, as well as the current request. And just at the bottom, just to point out the request analytics, which for a lot of our advocates who post a lot of requests onto our website, they can then pull off sort of an Excel spreadsheet of their requests. And they often like totting up how much they've had via Acts 435, and just having a look there. It's also helpful should treasurers or anyone need to know specifics. So if you go to the next slide, Jill, hopefully. Yay. Mm-hmm. So at the top of the dashboard, there is a big yellow button that says create request. And this is how to create a new request on our website. So it's a really straightforward form. We have tried to make it as simple as possible. So it's a case of creating the request, clicking that button, and then first of all, putting how much the request would be for. So I've used a request that we've had in the past, which was just a very well-written request, so I thought I'd use it. So the amount that they needed was £100, and it was for decorating items. We ask, where possible, for advocates to be really specific about the need, not just a general, lot of items, but in terms of, obviously, we're asking specifically for decorating items here. So it's £100 needed for, so on our website, that's how it appears. So £100 needed for decorating items. If you just go to the next slide, please, Jill. Thank you. So underneath where it says that, there is a little box to tick that says this request will be a contribution towards a larger amount. Just to clarify that really briefly, but if you've got any more questions about it, feel free when we get to some question answer time. But so obviously our maximum amount is £200 for each request. If you have somebody that has a request that might be larger than that, and you know that they've managed to source the rest of the funding from somewhere else, we need to know that that other funding is in place before your Acts 435 request will go live onto our website. And it just guarantees our donors that in then donating their amount towards that need, that the rest of the finances are all together. So once the donations have been fulfilled, that the individual will get that item they so desperately need. So if you do have to tick that box, we just then ask in the additional information box, you can just see it below at the bottom of that slide, just for where the rest of the funding would come from. Might be family or friends are helping them with a gift, or there might be various different reasons for that, but we just ask you to clarify, and if you haven't clarified that, we'd just send it back with a little note asking for more information. So we've done the amount and the what the item or items are, and then underneath you've got this box to tell their story. So I'm just going to read you what this advocate so beautifully wrote. So this mum's 15-year-old son suffers with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, brought on by witnessing a murder. Mum would love to give her son's room a makeover. At present, there is bare plasterboard, but some paint, wallpaper, brushes, rollers, trays and paste would help to make this room a space that promotes good mental health rather than reminding him of times when he was unable to manage his fear and anxiety. Mum cannot afford to do this herself as she has debt from an ex-partner. So it really clearly explains what the need is. Why the family can't afford this. Also avoids acronyms. They've put the PTSD in there, but they've explained what that is. And, you know, it just gives you a really good sense of exactly what the need is, why they need it, and a little bit just in a sentence about their financial situation, which obviously for donors going on reading that, they know exactly what they'd be donating towards if they were to give towards that need, which is really helpful. Just scroll to the next slide, please, Jill. Thank you. So under this box and the additional information box, there is the options here to put primary categories. So I talked earlier about loads of our donors filtering by those categories, and it's really helpful to select 2 different categories. So if a donor went on and chose the category children and domestic abuse, they'd see that request in both of those categories. Underneath that is the applicant details. Now, all our requests are completely anonymous. This applicant details part is mostly for our advocates who, you know, each request generates a number, but often for our advocates who are working face-to-face, actually having a name to each request is really helpful. But we also, you'll notice, ask for date of birth too. And the name and date of birth are used for our purposes just to ensure that we so we have a rule where every family or individual can every household can have 3 requests, because at Acts 435 we're all about a crisis moment, we're not about ongoing support. So there's a rule that it's the maximum of 3 per household. So in providing the name and the date of birth, our system just flags up if somebody has had more than 3 requests, and we can come back to you and sort of ask, is this next request necessary, and sort of is it urgent, and we can talk that through. Underneath that is city or town, and region as well. And as I said earlier, loads of our donors love to go on and give to their region, so that's really invaluable too. But you can tick underneath to hide the location. So if you've got a really sensitive situation, such as somebody escaping domestic violence, for example, it might be that you want to, for safeguarding purposes, hide their location on their request, so it wouldn't appear on the website. So just to clarify there, the applicant's details don't go to the website. It is literally just for our sort of administration purposes. Next slide, please, Jill. Thank you. So under that, then this is the final parts of the form, which is you're confirming that the applicant has given you consent to share this information, to post this request, and you need to tick that box. And then under there, we send out a monthly prayer bulletin, which we put together, which includes some general prayer requests, but also some specific prayer requests for individuals and families that are being helped by our partners. So if you have something specific, or if you'd like to ask the applicant if they've got something specific they'd like prayer for, you can put it in that box, and that will come through to us as you post your request, which is just brilliant. And then you can either save to draft, as you can see on the left, or you can preview the request, which is the next slide, please, Jill. Last slide. So you can preview the request before it would then come through to our team. Just good to make sure that everything sounds correct, and that you've stuck to all the rules before requesting approval, which is the bottom right hand button there, and then it comes through to us in our back-end system, and we say that we'll always check them within 2 working days. Often it's quite quicker than that, and our wonderful administrator Carol sits there and checks all the requests. So you can stop screen sharing now, Jill. Thank you. So just a couple of things just to pick up before I hand over to Alison, which is what was I going to say? There was just two things I was going to mention. So you'll have seen from the list of requests on there that there's obviously a certain amount, so each partner can have 5 live requests at any one time, and that's why we created that draft facility. So you can have 5 live on our website at any one time, but as soon as one's been met, so you've then got 4 live, you can put one of your drafts, if you've got waiting, you can then post that 5th one back up. So the draft function has been helpful for lots of our partners who see a lot of requests and a lot of need, which is just brilliant. And then I was going to just talk about the red bar, which said action required. So action required either means you've sent it for approval, your request, and we've got a question or a comment, or we need a bit more information, in which case we'll send it back, and that'll appear on your dashboard, and it will say, it'll give the reasons for sending that back. But also, once the need has been fulfilled and the money sent to your church's bank account, you just have 2 more steps to complete. So one is payment tracking. So there's 2 little buttons on your dashboard. One is payment tracking, which you just need to sort of say when the money was given, the need was met, sort of with the recipient. And then the other one is the thank you message. Now this is really important to us, to our donors, is a message of thanks either from the recipient's words or your own words about the impact that that specific need had on the individual. And so say 5 people gave to that request, those 5 donors would receive that thank you message via email, and it just gives them that reassurance. Really, not all of our donors want to receive the thank you messages, but most of them really love the thank you messages because it shows the impact that their gift had, and it makes a really how it made a really big difference. So I'm going to quickly pass over to Alison, and Alison is she works in the food bank in Lewisham, and I invited her because I thought it would be brilliant to hear. I know she's got some great stories, but also a little bit about her experience of being an advocate there in the food bank. So Alison, over to you.
Thank you very much, Katie. I have to say I've never heard of you guys, Compassionate Communities, but it's really lovely to see you all and to hear. And you're north of the river, which is brilliant because I spend all my time south of the river, so that's really nice. So my name's Alison. I started volunteering at Trussell Trust Food Bank in Lewisham about 10 years ago. And at that time, the food bank was quite leisurely. We used to have a nice chat with each other, lots of coffee. We had clients we used to fight over and spend lots of time with, and we had lots of time to pray with them, which was amazing. So it was very relaxed. But I just got the stats from the food bank last month for May, and the 6 centres fed 2,000 people. So it's no longer a leisurely morning out. I don't do stuff with the food bank in that way anymore. I just do the Acts 435. But I'd never heard of Acts 435 until 2020. Obviously at that time we were delivering food to clients. It was a lockdown, and it worked really well, but I think you saw a bit more of clients' situations because you went to their homes, and it would be then that somebody would say, oh yes, this is great, but I don't actually have anywhere to cook it, or I don't have anywhere to store this stuff. So the project manager at the time, I don't know how she got in touch or she knew about Acts, but she introduced it to us, and it looked like a possible solution. But like with anything that's new, you're a bit like, oh, how much work is this going to be? It's a bit scary, you know. So we decided we would try it, and it was very easy to set up. Like Katie said, it's not difficult. And through the food bank, we posted our first request, which was actually for a baby changing table, which is a bit strange, but it was a Brazilian couple and they needed it. And we thought, well, it's something quite small. Let's try something small. And it was successful so quickly. We were all like, wow, you know, this works. So we were actually quite cautious for the rest of 2020. We posted around 25 requests. They were quite varied. There was school uniforms. There was a folding bike for an asylum seeker, dining chairs, all sorts of things, quite a few white goods, which now have become quite a standard item for us. And each time a request is fulfilled, it's like, wow, this is amazing. And it still is. I mean, you know, it's just incredible, really. 2021 and 22, we had around 180 requests for those 2 years in total. And the main items that people wanted were cookers, washing machines, fridge freezers. We have loads of clients, and you probably know this too from your organisation, they get moved into properties and there's just literally nothing in the property. So they were the most popular items. Beds and mattresses, also quite a top request. And people are often still surprised and delighted that beds and mattresses are new. That's still like, wow, you know, that's great. We've had we had a couple of requests for legal fees with a rehousing situation. We had a deportation story, and they were met from a larger gift fund, which was, I know is something that's not existing at the moment, but was really helpful to us during that time. This year, we have had 51 requests so far, and we would have had many more, but we have actually stopped the referral process for a couple of months because we had such a backlog of requests and it was just getting overwhelming and clients were waiting so long that we thought we need to stop this and clear it. And I think we'll be opening up again pretty soon. We're almost there with the clearing through the requests. So in general, our clients are users of the food bank. So we have basically a potentially endless source of referrals. We have referrers have varied over time. At certain times, we had loads of health visitors referring to us, and then we've had citizens advice, refugee organisations, schools, Thames Reach, which is a homeless charity, and also the direct referrals from the food bank staff. So it's been quite mixed. As Katie said, we do a referral form for each client, and most importantly include financial details so that the Acts team can assess the weight of the request, really, which makes sense. We post the requests on the website. It's easy, it is really easy, and we just keep the clients updated. So we would have a phone call with them initially, then we would keep in touch with them once we get the money through, and let them know. We rarely meet our clients. They would come through a referral form, so we rarely meet them in person, but we do talk to them on the phone and you know, have a little chat and see how they're doing. I have had a couple of little shopping trips for furniture, so I've been to the British Heart Foundation in Lewisham and a couple of bed shops with people, and that's been nice because, you know, as I say, we rarely meet people. One of our biggest bonuses as a food bank is that we have a local supplier of reconditioned white goods, which has been a massive help to us, because obviously buying washing machines and stuff like that, they've got to go into the home, delivery, fitting, blah, 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 which all costs money. So our guy will do everything for the £200 limit, which is amazing. And we just pay him direct. So our clients can go in, they can look at the stuff in his place. It feels like they're shopping, and they are, and they choose something. And then this lovely guy, he just delivers it and fits it. So that's been a huge help to us financially, as well as just a good relationship with him. So not all of the clients are easy to contact / keep in touch with. And it's very disappointing when you want to tell them good news. So we've got your money, but you can't get hold of them. Some of them are not always that grateful, which is, you know, what it is. But many of them are delightful. And I just want to tell you about a guy that we had. This was in 2021. It was a middle-aged guy, and I had some really nice phone conversations with him. He was referred to the food bank by his Universal Credit work coach. He'd been homeless, living in a shelter. but then he was moved into a studio flat which was empty. He told me he'd pieced some things together, furniture-wise, from stuff he'd found out on the street, but he obviously needed appliances. And he was very close to tears when I told him we would try to fund a cooker and a fridge for him through Acts. He said he was quite anxious, but he felt really grateful that people were fighting his corner. This is his thank you letter to Acts 435 when he received the items. He got them both within a month of his request. It said, "Good afternoon, Alison. I hope you're well. It was my utmost pleasure to send positive feedback and my duty. There was no way I could progress in my life without your help, let alone not acknowledge it. I'll always be grateful to the day I die. I get so much joy just being able to get a pint of milk and put it in my fridge. Sometimes I just open the door of my fridge and smile. As for the cooker, well, I've had a fry up. I've made homemade pies. The other day I made homemade jerk chicken, pizza. My journey on the cooker has just begun. That's all down to you and your staff. That's powerful. We've been blessed. I've been blessed for you guys entering my life." And that was one of our most delightful thank you messages. But we've had many, you get many messages, and sometimes they're just a couple of lines, but you feel like the person's heart is really in it. So I suppose I would end by saying, if you're not sure whether you can make all of this work for your organisation, I would just encourage you that the Acts team are the kindest and most forgiving. They have been to me, because I don't always read all the rules, and I sometimes just don't follow them very well. So, there's always been someone there to ask. There's someone sometimes you're just not sure. And there's always a nice email that comes back to you with advice, and it just moves things forward. The difference the Acts team have made for our food bank clients is unprecedented. I mean, the team and all the lovely people who give financially, it's just amazing, because we've made around 280 requests in just under 3 years, and we've supplied £35,000 worth of items to people. So that is incredible. And I think the clients and advocates, there's 4 of us for the food bank, we just remain amazed, to be honest, that people are willing to step into the needs of people they don't even know. So that's it really, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Alison. Oh, it's just brilliant. I've heard that fridge story once before, and it makes me well up every time. I think it's just fantastic, and I think as well, Alison obviously is really active with her team. They've got 4 advocates, so each church or charity can have more than one. You only get one login, one dashboard to see, and you share those 5 live requests, but it can be really helpful if somebody's off ill or away on holiday, to be able to cover each other's things and keep on top of what's going on. But also, yeah, Alison is super busy, her team are super busy, but that isn't the case for every church. Some churches might post 1 request a month, and that is absolutely fine. They're just having these small conversations, and they hear of a need and they think, oh, I know what I can do, I can post to Acts 435. So we have vast, between our 600 partners, we have different ends of the scale with busyness and capacity as well. We're really aware that lots of people serving in churches are really busy people too. So how you use us is entirely up to you. We like to be flexible. I'm really aware, Jill, that we were going to do a bit of questions and answers. Yes. Someone has posted one in the chat, and I was wondering if there's any other questions that we wanted to cover. I did send you a list, but I don't have it to hand. I did, so hopefully we could do that.
Yeah, I might have building noise in the background, but hopefully I won't. We have the question in the chat, and then also I think people asking, can I give cash? Once you give a church the money, can they give cash out? And then how do churches know if someone's in genuine need?
Yeah. Okay, great. I'll cover those 2 first, and then I'll move on to the specific one in the chat, if that's all right. So in terms of genuine need, and Alison's, I suppose, a good case in point example, really, they've put some systems in place. we kind of put the trust with the advocate to know that genuine need. So Alison talked a bit about having a form. Not every advocate does a specific form essentially, but if you wanted to, you know, to ascertain if you're taking referrals from different sources, often you can base the trust on the referrer that's sort of referring that applicant to you. But equally, a lot of our churches are already have relationships with the people that they're meeting. It might be that they're a debt client, or they're from their toddler group that they run, so they've had a lot of conversations with them and they know their situation already. So it's kind of up to each church to figure out how to ascertain that genuine need, but obviously if you need support or guidance in any of that, we can definitely help in terms of that. And then in terms, I suppose it goes hand in hand a little bit with the giving cash. So we ask, obviously I talked about helping to source the item. We ask where possible not to give cash, for the one of the reasons being that a lot of people that might be in crisis or in poverty or facing hardship might be in that place because they live quite a chaotic lifestyle anyway, and you're not always sure that that cash will then be spent on the item that the donors have given it for. So we ask where possible that you either order the item or go on a shopping trip with them if capacity allows, or somebody else from your church that is able to do that, or gift vouchers are another great option. So for example, if you wanted to give money for food, you want them to be able to go to the supermarket and choose their own food. I think most of the supermarkets now as well do ones that don't include, they're not able to buy alcohol with those vouchers, which is a good tip we get given by some of our advocates. So yeah, there's ways and means of not giving cash, but equally if you have a really good relationship with that person already, you've built up sort of a relationship with them and you know that their need is genuine and that they will use that cash. Again, that's kind of a trust thing, I suppose. So I hope that's kind of clear, but as Alison said, our team are always on hand with any answers to any questions that people might have. You know, if it's, oh, I'm not quite sure what to do now in this situation, then we can always help with that. Somebody asked in the chat then about requesting help for a client, adult social care client through the church. So obviously if the church is an Acts 435 partner, then that's great. You could absolutely approach that church. I'll do it now actually before I forget, but I've popped in the chat how you can find our partners. So we have you can put in your postcode and find your closest partner to you. So you can approach the church directly, or if you are part of a church that wants to partner with us, you can do it that way. But as Alison was saying, she takes referrals from lots of different places, and referrals through the church are a great way to meet those needs. So that's great. Is there anything else, Jill, or anyone else? Oh, someone's Patty. In terms of the initial setup, how long would you take the church to set up as a partner? Is if you can do it really, like if you can fill your forms out really quickly. So the way to request our advocate commitment form is to go onto our website, click on partner with us, and then fill out the partnership inquiry form on there. Our team will then send you an email within 1 to 2 working days. We're quite quick, which includes a bit more information, and then the advocate commitment form that would need to be signed, as I said, by the advocate and a member of the church leadership. And alongside that, we do also need confirmation of your church's bank account details, because obviously we're transferring the money to your church's bank account. That could be a blank check, that could be a paying in slip, or a bank letter with the name, as long as it includes the name of the bank account and the sort code and account number. They are literally the only 2 things we need. So once you can email them back, you can scan them, you can take a picture with a smartphone, get them back to us, and then once we've got those, we'll set up your account, and we'll then send you an email with how you log in and get started. So it can be super quick. Often we're just waiting for people to come back to us, because I know sometimes trying to get signatures and stuff can be a bit tricky, but we try to make everything as simple as possible for everybody. Fab. I'm also trying to think if there's anything I haven't covered, but I literally can't think of anything. So,
well, I was just going to ask for the people present, maybe if there are any other questions, if you could put them in the chat or unmute and just ask us. But I wanted to just say thank you so much to both Katie and Alison. You've spoken so clearly and passionately about what you're doing, and it is just amazing. I mean, I was one of the people who thought maybe there was a catch at the beginning, and clearly there's not. So it's just so encouraging to hear from both of you. So thank you. And people saying it's made them cry too, and that's true. Unless we get any other questions, I'll ask for the people who are coming on this, if you could do a very quick online survey of what you thought, that would help us. So if someone could put that in the chat, and then also to invite you. So we've been doing these lunchtime events once a month, and the next one is the 11th of July, and it's going to be on community sponsorship, so an introduction to community sponsorship with a charity called Reset. I don't know, Patty, if you want to say a word on what, I've just thrown that on her.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just trying to find the link. So I'll find that.
I'll do that.
You do that one. Yeah, so we've got, so Reset are a charity who support church communities or any community really, groups to effectively sponsor a vulnerable refugee family to come over to the UK. So we've just released a little video for Refugee Week, which Archbishop Justin Welby has just tweeted today. So you can watch that and find out a little bit more about it. And then if you're interested in finding out a bit more, then we're doing just a really short, again, an hour's lunch and learn in July, which will be like an introduction to what it is, how it works, and then sort of next steps from there. So we would love to see you there. We'd love you to share the word with others. So yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. If people who are here don't get our monthly e-newsletter where we would put information like this, I will also put that in the chat. We send out information related to events, but also when we have stories that we're putting on the website. So that's a good thing to sign up for that. So I'll put that next in the sign up in the chat. But just to say thank you again, we appreciate both of you coming. Katie and Alison and the people who have come to learn about Acts 435. We hope it's been helpful. Please, oh, we know it has been helpful. Thank you in the chat for saying it was really helpful. We know that it will help other people too. The recording we'll put on the website, and we'll send a follow-up email just with the information that was shared today. So thank you to you both so much. We really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, thank you too.